Hey, this is Thomas from nursemoneytalk.com, and let's talk for a second about just night shift in general. And a question that I got recently, and that was, is night shift harder than day shift? Let me just sum it up by this. Yes, yes, it is. Night shift is definitely harder than day shift for probably the vast majority of people. And there are exceptions to this, which I'm gonna get to here shortly. But before I get to that, I wanna invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of our next videos that will be coming out. And also any links to anything that I mentioned, you will see that in the description below. Now let's get back to what I was talking about, and that is just how brutally hard night shift is. Right out of the gate, I think night shift is going to be difficult for the vast majority of people. And honestly, let's just call it out for what it is. To start off with, one, it's going to be hard to sleep. Like, you're literally trying to stay awake when your body's trying to go to sleep. I mean, you're constantly fighting with, what is it, like your circadian rhythm. And it is just brutal. I worked night shift for a couple of years. I've worked just about, I've worked the first shift, second shift, third shift, 7A to 7P, 7P to 7A, 11P to 7A. I've worked all of those nursing shifts. And hands down, for me personally, the hardest ones were night shift. Honestly, besides the trying to fight your circadian rhythm and trying to stay awake when your body's going to be going to sleep, for most of you, you're going to have a hard time trying to go to sleep even after you get home. So the sun's out, you've already driven through outside, all that, the bright light has already hit you. So now your body thinks, oh wait, it's time to stay awake. And so while some people will have I think it's some night shift, or I think it's blue light blocking goggles or something like that, which I think some nurses claim that it's helpful. I'll put a link to one below, if it's something you want to check out and you are working night shift. But it's then you get home, you're not going to be able to sleep. Some people have tried blackout curtains. I've tried blackout curtains and a whole host of other things. I didn't really find it that helpful, or having to take medications like melatonin, and it's just a constant struggle. You can't stay awake when you want to stay awake, and then you can't sleep when you actually want to sleep. And then on top of what makes night shift just hard is that now you're in a situation where there's an increased chance of health problems. With lack of sleep comes a high risk of illness associated with sleep deprivation. In addition, those working the night shift are more likely to be obese and suffer from health conditions like diabetes. And that was from the Sleep Foundation, which I will put a link to that article below if you want to check that out. So, increased chances of health problems. The third thing is just social life is, I found that to be a little bit problematic, because, and so what I did was I would try to, of course I would work my night shift, I would come back, I would try to sleep immediately as soon as I get home. So I'll try to sleep, 8 to 3 or 8 to 4 or something like that. And so then when I would wake up, I would then try to stay awake for the rest of the time. I feel like for most people who work night shift, that's not typically what ends up happening. A lot of times they'll try to take a little bit of a power nap or sleep or something actually leading into when they go in for their shift. And then what happens with that? So then you end up running a situation where in the evenings you're sleeping when people might be wanting to hang out. It was just very difficult in terms of social life. And then even on my days off, I found it really hard to, because then my natural tendency would be okay, so I'm gonna try to stay on the shift or the night schedule that I was on. But of course then I'm awake at night when I'm not working. And then you're trying to sleep when other people, when friends or families or whatever are trying to get together. And even trying to trying to flip back to days just ends up, you just don't feel quite right. Or at least from my experience, you don't feel quite right. The other thing as well that you'll notice is that even when you are on the job, you almost, like one of the things I found out about working nights is that you almost kind of feel like you're constantly playing catch up. And what I mean by that is that so during the day shift, you typically get to talk to the doctors. And so, you'll have more of a communication with the doctors or admins or whatever. So you tend to be more in the know about what's going on. But then what ends up happening at night is that none of those people are around. So the doctors aren't around, the, admin's not around, or at least they're typically not around. And so you end up kind of missing out on a lot of information. So if you miss an email or they don't send out an email or a meeting or whatever, and your facility or department's not good about making sure that night shift is in the know, then you'll have situations where things are changing, whether it's orders for a patient, and you could potentially just be struggling to try to play catch up on that. So does that necessarily mean that night shift is just this horrible schedule and that nobody should ever work that and all? Is that really what I'm trying to say? Actually, yes, it is. I really hate night shift that much. But I do understand that it is it's critical to the healthcare system and to a lot of other industries that some people are willing and or able to work nights. And the thing about it is that I think I should mention is that there are some people who they're not too bothered by nights and actually enjoy some benefits or some of the perks that night shift gives. And yes, there are, and I do admit there are some perks to working night shift. For me personally, those perks don't outweigh the negatives, which is the fact that, the health issues and the fact that I can't sleep and I'm walking around like a zombie 24/7 when I'm on nights. But for example, some of the benefits of night shift is one, at times you can get better pay. So you can have night shift differentials for working nights. So here's an example. I remember when I was working nights at one facility, I think when you added up the shift differentials for a month, it worked out to about $400 or $500. Nothing else, just not really doing overtime, just working night shifts, about $400 or $500. That's pretty much the price of a car payment or something like that. And so you get that extra perk to it. And then once you start throwing in working overtime or nights plus weekend shift differentials, and then your pay starts looking really, really nice with that night shift. The second and third thing about it is that one, there's less people in the way, and three, I should say, is you can take care of your patients in peace, and four, there's no admin around to bother you. So let's start off with the less people in the way. In a lot of the units or floors that I've worked in during days, there's just a lot of people around. There's suits walking around, there's nurse managers walking around, you got custodial staff, you got, all sorts of people, creditors like JACO roaming around as well sometimes. So there's a lot of people around. And so trying to take care of your patients can be very difficult because it ends up being more cumbersome. And then even just throwing in the admin, just roaming around as well. That was one of the things that I actually really liked when one of the few things I should say that I really liked when I did work night shift was that it was typically just the nurses as well, and the techs as well. And so it was very peaceful. I suppose the downside to that as well is that during days, you have more hands on deck. So if something goes wrong, there's more hands on deck to potentially help. So you tend to at nights, there's fewer distractions, less orders, at times, depending on where you work at, there's less admitting and discharging of patients as well. One thing as well that I found kind of interesting about night shift is that if you worked night shift before, maybe you can let me know what your thoughts on this are, but there just seems to be more camaraderie on night shift than there is day shift. I don't know if it's just because there's fewer people around. I mean, they're doing more like where people bring food in a potluck or something like that. There are just more and more of those things. And so I found like the night shift nurses tended to be closer than day shift. Now that, I'm sure there's, if you found that to be different, then definitely let me know in the comment section below. But that was just like my experiences. And so the other thing as well that you might find interesting about night shift is that if you're in a facility, and that's a lot of facility where parking sucks, less issues with that on nights. As a whole, I wanted to kind of give you the full spectrum of things, because I know that there are a lot of people, a lot of nurses, I should say, that work nights. They've worked nights for years. They couldn't imagine doing anything else. And so hopefully then you can make the decision that's best for you, and kind of like best for you, best for your family, and best for your current situation. So 2 things. One, if you agree with any of these points that I mentioned, or you disagree, let me know in the comment section what you disagree with, or if you have any other 2 cents to add. The second thing as well that I'll mention is that if you are looking for nursing jobs as well, like a night shift or a night shift position or a night shift position in any job or whatever, you can go to nursemoneytalk.com/job and then see what jobs are available in whatever, city or state that you're looking for. And so I think that's pretty much all I have for this particular video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you very soon in the next video.